Hi, Lucy.
Hello.
Thanks for joining the interview.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
I asked you a month ago, and then I just got caught up, and sorry I didn't do this sooner. I'm actually really behind on all of these, so I got to start pushing through and interviewing all the athletes.
Yeah, it was a
Congratulations.
bit of a last minute job.
Yeah. So it's like 10 o'clock there, right?
Yeah, yeah, bedtime.
A- And I emailed you like an hour ago, and you said you could do it. So I appreciate you doing this. Congratulations on qualifying.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
you've been to you went to the games your first time in 2022, correct?
Yeah. A few years ago now.
And what do you think of your first experience at the games in 2022?
It was different. It was interesting. Um, there were definitely a lot more curveballs than I was expecting. I was expecting like maybe one or two, and it just felt like event after event had something that I just wasn't ready for. But I think that's all part of it, and I definitely feel more prepared for that this year, just from a mental perspective of like, if that happens again, I've done it before, so we'll just handle it.
What other competitions do you compete in typically throughout the year other than the games?
Well, so interestingly, like the games that I qualified for the first time, so 22, that was basically like my first year on the scene, I guess. I had
Yep.
obviously COVID year the year before where we had online semis and that sort of thing, and I got through to the last chance qualifiers. And then Wodapalooza in 22 was like my first major international comp. And then it was literally just Wodapalooza, Lowlands, the games. And then I haven't competed since then because I've been out with a wrist injury. So actually, Wodapalooza this year was my first sort of big event back. So it's like I still feel pretty new. So outside of the games, I've not really done a lot of stuff. I've still got a lot on the bucket list in terms of like things that I want to do before I stop.
How'd you do at Wadapalooza?
Yeah, pretty well.
Did you win it?
I won it. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Very cool. Let's back up actually. We kind of jumped right into the qualifying and the games, but let's talk about, well, two things. You just mentioned a wrist injury. Tell us about the wrist injury.
Oh, it was a whole thing. So I guess I started noticing pain in the run up to the games, but obviously, by that point in the season, everyone's sort of got some sort of niggles that they're carrying through. And so we just assumed that, having a rest period after the games, it'd settle and stuff like that. And then had my rest period, it didn't. So I went to get a cortisol injection, didn't work, had another cortisol injection, didn't work. Went to see a surgeon that basically went in and found that there was actually a fracture of my lunate bone. And that was in March 23. And he said to me that there was nothing that he could do about it, that CrossFit as a sport wouldn't really function. It wouldn't be doable for me with the wrist that I had. And so he recommended me to another surgeon who ghosted me and basically didn't know what to do, so didn't get back to me. And then I went to a final surgeon who basically identified that the reason for the fracture was the fact that my radius and my lunate bone, no, sorry, my radius and my ulnar have a length discrepancy. So my radius is 5 millimeters longer than my ulnar was. And that was basically creating a pressure that over time broke my lunate bone. So essentially, he went in and took 5 millimeter chunk of bone out of my radius, put a plate and pinned it in place in my radius. And so that was in March 2020. That was in July 2023. Sorry. So yeah, it's been a long journey.
How long did that take to recover fully from?
So I wasn't doing front rack properly. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm still sort of consistently doing front rack properly, but I couldn't front rack until sort of October 2024. And I was like first hanging from a rig again back in December 23. So it was like, I guess I was fully recovered when I was first able to start doing front rack work again. So late last year.
And what about the other wrist?
Other wrist is fine. It's all
It,
level. It's very strange.
yeah. That's wild. And do you think just from like, was it the hanging on the bar as you described, or was it the cleans, or like what really made it noticeable and to the point that it was an issue, or just
Honestly,
all of
like
it?
anything, yeah, anything upside down mainly. I could feel it in handstand walks, but snatching was the main issue where I could feel it. Yeah, snatching with the like angle that your wrist gets put in. That was where it was like the major problem.
Okay. So now let's back up. How did you get involved in CrossFit? When did you start?
So I started in April 2018. And we have a chain of gyms, commercial gyms in the UK called Pure Gym. And I was working and training at a Pure Gym. And they had a sort of, I guess, functional fitness, CrossFit type class there. And I was a regular at that class and I loved it. And the guy who ran the class was like, look, I think you could be actually quite good at this thing called CrossFit, like showed me a couple of videos. And one of the other trainers there he was a member at a CrossFit gym nearby. So I went down with him for a Saturday morning team workout. And I walked in and it was just like, I was late because I couldn't find the location because it was like in the middle of nowhere industrial estate. And now that I'm a trainer, I realize how annoying that probably was having a newbie walk in late. But yeah, like literally in that first session, I was doing like barbell cycling snatches at 35, clean and jerks at 42 and a half. I did my first handstand push up in that class. Like it was the full shebang of like CrossFit movements in that session. But yeah, I was just hooked.
Wow, that was you were doing handstand walks in your first ever class?
So I used to do gymnastics when I was young,
Okay.
so I could already handstand walk, much to probably the dismay of the current members that have been trying to learn for ages. But yeah,
I still can't walk on my hands.
you'll
So
get there,
tell it.
Dave. You'll get
Yeah, I'll get there. Maybe you can coach me at the games.
there.
So how long did you did gymnastics as a youth or as a kid growing up?
Yeah, until I was 12, and I was lucky enough my family went to Beijing to watch the Beijing Olympics in 2008. And I was looking at these girls and I was like, these girls are not that much older than I was 12 at the time. And I like had these dreams of going to the Olympics. And I was like, in 4 years' time, there's no way I'm doing all that sort of stuff. So I just sort of like called it a day not long after that and moved on to swimming and did something different.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So basically, as a 12-year-old, you kind of saw you were realistic with where you were in the journey and realized it's probably unlikely that you could do that.
Yeah, I think I've always sort of had that kind of awareness, I guess. I had high expectations and high hopes for myself. And I think that gymnastics is a real sport where the fundamentals really matter. So if there's not the kind of basic things that you're quite good at, like I wasn't a bad gymnast, I was competing at nationals and that sort of thing, but I wasn't, winning at nationals. And ultimately the girls that go to the Olympics are like at that level already when they're 12.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just like, I was sort of falling out of love with it a little bit by that point anyway. And it was just like time to call it a day.
So clearly that background, that foundation has translated well over to CrossFit.
Yeah, I think like it's not even. I think men's gymnastics is a lot more applicable to CrossFit than women's gymnastics is, with like all the ring stuff and that sort of thing. But I think what gymnastics teaches you is like a body awareness and a discipline and stuff like that you don't pick up from many sports, and also like an understanding that actually you're not just going to stumble across these movements and stuff like that. You have to actually work hard for it to be able to do it in the end. So it just sort of teaches you to take nothing for granted and really like you can see that you get out what you put in.
The discipline for sure, the training routine. Absolutely. When did you so you swam, you said after that. What distance did you swim?
So I swam anywhere from like, I guess from a nationals perspective, I was making finals in 400 free, 800 free, and then I was on the GB junior team for the 5 and 10Ks.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it was long.
The it's kind of like I've talked about this on other shows, but it's like cross country. My daughter runs cross country, and seeing the grit that builds, and just being able to go for 15, 20 minutes and go really hard, I think in youth translates really well to CrossFit. The same could definitely be said of swimming. And if you swim distance like you just described, I think that as a background translates exceptionally well to being able to just push in CrossFit workouts, especially the longer ones. Tia's she was a runner and a swimmer. She did cross country and swimming in high school, and you can kind of see that in her, just the ability to like drive and go.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's an ability to suffer when you do like one thing for a long period of time and you really like, set up camp in the pain cave and just get your head down and do it. But I also think that with swimming, obviously, you're not seeing timers anywhere. Like everything is off feel.
Yeah.
And so I really think that that's something that I've been able to carry through to CrossFit, is just the ability to like sort of know what pace I need to go at just by feel, not necessarily by, looking at a watch or anything like that. And I think that's really valuable.
Where in the UK are you?
Right in the middle. I mean, just outside Nottingham.
Oh, just outside Nottingham.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say that right?
Just about. Yeah. Don't pronounce the H.
Just about. There's no way. Don't pronounce the H.
Don't pronounce the H. Nottingham.
Nottingham.
Yeah.
Nottingham. Oh wow, that's weird to not pronounce the H. Okay.
Or you say Nottingham.
Nottingham.
Yeah, that's right. That's more the American accent way of saying it.
Okay. Is that a big city?
Ish, yeah.
Okay, that wasn't a Guinness, was it?
No. Just about as close as I get to a cider these days. Squash.
How far is that from London?
About 2 hours.
And when you fly to the games, when you fly to Albany, will you fly from London? You'll have to drive down to London?
Yeah, my parents live just outside London, so it's not too bad.
When will you come to the games? A week early? 2 weeks early?
So I'm actually flying out on the 15th. My godmother lives in New Jersey, super conveniently. So I'm going to be staying with her for a couple of weeks to try and get used to the weather over there. And then I'll go across to Albany on the Sunday.
Okay. That's I imagine that's not too far from Jersey, depending where, but
no, it's not.
I just took a train ride from Albany to New York City, and that was cool. It was a nice train ride. I have not spent a lot of time in New York in general in my life. You mentioned training, and so you have your level 2 actually, right?
Yeah.
So when did you get your level 1?
I got my level 1, I guess 2019. So actually not long after I started CrossFit.
So you kind of went all in.
Yeah, I actually I was in the process of finishing my master's at that time. And so I was like looking around for jobs and stuff like that anyway. And my friend, the guy who got me into CrossFit, said that he was going to do his level 1. So I just jumped on that with him. And and then I guess I started coaching. It might even have been October 2018. 2019. Okay. Anyway, it was I started coaching October 2019 at CrossFit Nottingham, which is where I sort of still work now.
Do you still actively coach?
Yeah, just twice a week, but yeah, do what I can.
That's awesome.
It's good fun.
Do you do group classes, or do you do like one-on-ones?
I do both. Okay. I think I probably prefer group classes. I just prefer the atmosphere and stuff like that. Like I hate the word, but the banter with the members and stuff like that is just always good fun. But then I also think that when you're working on like specific skills, you can get a lot done in a PT that you can't necessarily get done in classes. So there's place for both, but I definitely enjoy classes more.
Do you remember who taught at your level 1?
Johnny Davies.
Oh, cool.
Oakley
Woodhouse.
Well, Woodhouse, that's the one. Yeah. She's changed her name now.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Andy Edwards.
Okay, all the good crew from out there.
Yep. Yeah, there was one more, but I can't remember.
So then when did you end up doing the level 2?
I did that last year, just in February, I think.
Oh, so recently.
Yeah, pretty recent.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was good. It's very different to the level 1. I like the fact that it is more about coaching as a skill,
Yes. Yeah.
rather than just actually like what you're coaching. And I think that as a coach, I found the level 2 more useful to the level 1 because of the way that you're coaching and like the things that you're taught to see and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was really interesting from that point.
Yeah, the level 2 definitely is really about giving the trainers feedback and giving the participants feedback on their training and helping them improve as trainers. Whereas the level 1 is the introductory course and kind
Yeah.
of teaching you the philosophy of the methodology and how to do the movements. The level 2 actually gives you feedback on your ability to teach. So
Yeah.
it's a course I think it's really valuable for trainers and for coaches in CrossFit for sure. So the affiliate you started at, it's still the same affiliate you're with now.
Yeah.
They must be
Yeah.
incredibly proud of you and everything you've accomplished.
I hope so. It's been a real journey with that affiliate. Like since I've been a part of it, it's had, I guess, 3 separate owners.
Oh wow.
So actually, Katie, who was a member at, she was the owner when I first joined. She was a member at the first CrossFit gym that I was at, that was a different CrossFit gym, and she was the one that said to me, like, look, I think that you could be quite good at this. Like, have you ever thought about teaching? Have you thought about what you want to do next and that sort of thing? And then she sort of brought me across to CrossFit Nottingham and gave me the job, and that gave me, I guess, the time to focus on training and stuff like that a little bit more. And then those owners sold the gym just before the games in 2022 to another pair who were a bit more like hands-off owners. So they were more remote. They were based in London. So we didn't see them a ton. And then unfortunately, the gym actually went bust last year. We had quite a hefty rent issue. And so essentially the CrossFit Nottingham name got bought out by another owner who's an owner that we've got now, and it's a whole different venue and everything like that. So it sort of doesn't really work for me as a location to train in anymore, unfortunately, because there's no open gym space, which means that I can't really train around the class timetables. But I still really love being involved as a coach there, because we've still got a lot of the members from the old gym and that sort of thing. And like, they really got me through having a pretty shit time with my wrist and everything like that. And like, yeah, it's really cool to still be able to be with them.
So then where do you do your training?
So there's a gym that's not far from my house now, which actually makes quite a change, because CrossFit Nottingham is like 30-40 minutes from me. So it's quite nice to have somewhere that I can sort of dip back into the house when I need to.
And it's plenty big for you to do everything you need to do?
Yeah, enough. Like there's some things that we don't have. We don't have a 15-foot rope. I have to move a whole dumbbell rack when I want to use a pegboard and stuff like that. And like sometimes I'm training next to the mums and babies class, but like, you know, we make do, it's fine.
How many hours a day do you train?
Sort of depends on, I guess, the time in the season, but also like what the focus is for that week. Anywhere between like 3 to 5, maybe 6 on some intense days, but that might be broken up, and some of it is, you know, body work sort of stuff, making sure that I feel good, and it's not all like super intense all the time.
What camp are you with, or whose programming do you follow?
So I'm not with a camp, proudly not with a camp, I will add as well, because I've been with my coach since late 2020. So his name's Cyril Grecky. He's a independent coach.
Is he where you are, located where you are?
No, so he's actually up in Manchester. So that's 2 hours north of where we're at. But I try and go and see him every other Wednesday. So we just get some time together at least.
Okay. And you feel this works out really well for you?
Yeah, like obviously, I think I would like to be able to see him more. Like time together is always super valuable, and it's good from his perspective to be able to see me training in person and the way that I move and the way that I approach stuff and that sort of thing. But I think there would be pros and cons to me moving closer to him, because he's the only real person that I know in Manchester. And so then it would be really, I'd feel very isolated, I think, if that was the case, that I like, you know, you get to know the community at the gym and stuff like that. But ultimately, if the only person you know is your coach, it can be quite a sort of lonely time, I guess.
Yeah. What are your final question? What are your goals for the games? What are you looking to get out of it this year?
It's interesting. I find it really hard to set goals for the games, I'll be honest, because I think I mean, if you want to tell me anything about any of the events, then go for it. But you never know what's going to come up. And so I think that with my wrist as well, there's been some things that I just haven't been able to work on that much until recently. So I'm trying not to put too high expectations on myself. But at the same time, I think that if the right events come up and if I execute well on the events that I can do really well, I just want to see where that puts me in this field with less than a year's worth of proper training and that sort of thing, and just take it from there.
What do you think about that aspect of you never really know what's going to come up, and the unknown and unknowable piece of the games that has been around for the last 19 years? Are you a fan of that, or are you not a fan of that?
I'm a fan of it to an extent. I like the idea of not being able to go into a workout with a complete set out plan all the time.
Yeah.
So I like the late releases and stuff like that, because I think that really tests, the variety of workouts that you've done in the past and the knowledge that you've gained from those workouts and that sort of thing, to come into a new event that you've not done. I sometimes struggle with the unknown and the unknowable aspect when, and I'm not saying you or the games, but sometimes people in the comments like to use it as an excuse for things not necessarily going to plan and us just having to deal with it. Yeah. And I think that's where I'm like, okay, unknown and unknowable to an extent. But I do, the kind of diversity and stuff like that of the movements was the thing that got me into CrossFit in the first place. So I do enjoy that. But yeah, just not as a cover up for other stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I appreciate the time. I don't want to take up any more of your rest time because I know it's your bedtime. So thank you for doing this, Lucy. And I will see you in a few weeks in Albany. So excited to. I don't think we've met in person, have we?
No, I don't think so, because I guess I didn't really see you around much the year that I was there.
No, exactly. I wasn't there. But thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.